Hello and welcome to 108 with AJK. Today we're continuing our 2026 fantasy baseball rankings, and we are up to shortstop, so let's get to it. With number 15, we've got Geraldo Perdomo. He had an excellent year last year. The only problem with that scenario is that it's really his only excellent year out of 5, but he actually led the National League in wins above replacement with 7. He hit 20 home runs, 100 RBI, hit 290 with 173 hits. That's pretty much a 4-category fantasy contributor, and those are hard to come by. So he'd probably be ranked higher on this list if he had done it with any consistency. But that being said, he had an excellent year last year. I expect him to have a very good year next year, and he clocks in at number 15. Number 14, we have Trevor Story. I don't know if anybody would have foreseen Trevor Story making fantasy baseball rankings lists at the beginning of last year. He'd kind of lost several seasons to injury, not the player he once was, but he came back in a big way in 2025. He still hits the ball very hard. He does have bad plate discipline, and he strikes out a lot. He stole the most bases of his career last year with 31 at the age of 32. His previous high was, 27, in 2018, so a long time ago. So the thing with Story is he's just getting a bit older. He's going to be 33 next year. It's just hard to say if he's going to be able to repeat this kind of success. But it's hard to argue with what he did last year, and that's why he makes my list at number 14. Number 13, we've got C.J. Abrams. C.J. Abrams is somebody who I think a lot of people have expected to take a lot bigger step forward than he has so far in his career, but maybe we're just finding out who he is. Maybe this is kind of just what he's settling into. He hits about 240, 250 every year with about 20 home runs, 30 to 40 stolen bases, and that definitely has value. But he isn't really particularly great at anything other than speed. He's just kind of really good at most things other than defense. I have seen some people opine that he may be moved off of shortstop eventually to second base. But for now, he's a shortstop, and he comes in at number 13 on my list. Number 12 is Willy Adames of the Giants. Kind of a power hitting threat from the shortstop position. He tends to hit around 30 home runs a year. His batting average tends to not be good, but he will take walks. So if you're in a points league, depending on your points structure, you may want to watch out for the strikeouts. But he is a solid choice. Lots of home runs. Hard to predict his steals. The last 4 years, he's had 8, 5, 21, and then 12 last year. He tends to be bad in batting average, like I mentioned, but his slugging percentage is usually pretty good. So his OPS ends up not being that great because of his low batting average, but he is a good slugger. He plays his home games at Oracle Park, which does suppress hitting to an extent, but it's not as bad for right-handed hitting. Number 11 is Dansby Swanson. Now, I was kind of surprised to see Dansby Swanson end up this high on my list, but his batted ball metrics are all excellent. He will be 32 next year, so he's kind of on the wrong side of 32. I would say Dansby Swanson is not really an exciting high ceiling type of pick. He's more of a safe floor type of guy. So I would say if you miss out on some of the top rated shortstops in your draft and you're in the later rounds, you could definitely do worse than grabbing Dansby Swanson. He's not really going to hurt you anywhere, and he's very durable. Last 5 seasons, he's played 160 games, 162, 147, 149, 159. So lots of games played. He'll rack up some stats for you, and he won't really hurt you in any one area. So that's number 11, Dansby Swanson of the Cubs. Number 10, currently still a free agent. I think most people expect him to end up back with the Blue Jays, but we'll see. Bo Bichette. So his speed is pretty much gone. He stole 25 bases in 2021, but the last 3 years it's been 5, 5, and 3. But he has had some injuries, so he could get back up to double digits in steals. But that's not really the story with Bo Bichette. He's more of an average hitter. Some home runs, maybe about 20 home runs is kind of where he's settled in the last few years. If he falls to the later rounds, he could be good value. He's not really somebody I would be targeting in the early rounds, but he's definitely not going to hurt you in any one area. And that's, I guess, why he comes in at about number 10, Bo Bichette. Number 9 is Jeremy Pena. Now, Jeremy Pena is kind of like a better version of C.J. Abrams. He hits for more average. He might not get quite as many stolen bases because he's not quite as fast, but he is a better hitter, I would say, than Abrams. And last year he had the biggest OPS of his career by quite a large margin. It was 840 after previously hovering around 700. So I guess the only question with Pena is, can he maintain his games? He doesn't really walk much, which hurts his OBP, so if he's not hitting, it's going to be a problem. Interesting, he's had exactly 20 stolen bases the last 2 years, which is about where I'd expect him to end up again. He continues to cut his strikeouts every year, which definitely helped him to hit over 300 this year. So if he can continue to keep the strikeouts down and continue the positive gains that he's made, I expect him to have a pretty good year, and he comes in at number 9. Number 8. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. It's Mookie Betts. I remember a couple of years ago, he was going first overall in a lot of drafts. That was back when he still had multi-position eligibility, which was helpful for him. He is just going to have shortstop eligibility next year, and stacking him up against some of these other shortstops, he just doesn't quite measure up anymore. I know he was hampered by an illness at the beginning of last year, but I have looked at his data from all year, and it's just not as good as it used to be, sadly. He's going to be 33 next year, so I don't expect him to magically reverse the effects of aging. That being said, he's still an excellent player. We're getting close to the top 5 here in one of the most loaded positions, so most of the players from here on out are going to be pretty darn good. And here we have Mookie Betts at number 8. Number 7, Zach Neto. I feel like Zach Neto is severely underrated, but that's starting to change, I think, now that he's had a couple years in a row of, 20 plus home runs, right around 30 stolen bases. He's a good power hitter for such a little scrappy guy, and I think you can believe in the results because his metrics all look pretty good. He barrels everything up well. He pulls it down the line. He's still young at 25 years old next year, and I think he definitely has a 30-30 season in the realm of possibility for him. Last 2 years, his draft value has been excellent because, as I said, I feel he's been a little bit underrated, but maybe the cat's out of the bag now and he'll be drafted higher. I'm not sure. But I currently have him ranked as my number 7 shortstop. Number 6, we've got Trea Turner, Old Faithful. He's going to be 33 next year, but he's really showing no signs of slowing down. He might have actually had his best year last year at the age of 32. He cut down on his Ks quite a bit from a couple of years earlier. Like in 22 and 2023, he had 131 and 150. Last couple of years down to 98 and 107. He's probably unlikely to steal 36 bases again like he did last year. That was the high of his career. But that being said, you never know. He's still pretty fast. He won the National League batting title actually last year, hitting just 304. His home runs were down a little bit last year, 15, as he had been over 20 the few years before that. So he could very well be just as good next year at 33, but it might be fair to expect some decline. And if you're in a dynasty league, you may want to consider looking elsewhere just because he's getting older, but it all depends on your roster makeup and who your other players are and stuff. But Trea Turner, excellent shortstop. I currently have him at number 6. Number 5 is Corey Seager. He has had a little bit of trouble staying on the field in recent years. He is going to be 32 next year, so you do worry a little bit about his durability and injury concerns. But when he's on the field, he's quite simply one of the best hitting shortstops in the game. Really, he's an elite hitter at any position. He's a little bit younger than Mookie Betts and Trea Turner by just a year or so, for whatever that's worth. He doesn't really rack up that many runs or RBIs playing in Texas. We'll see what Texas does to improve their lineup this offseason. So if you do draft Corey Seager, just be aware of his injury history. You may want to have a utility player or somebody else with shortstop eligibility on your team just in case he misses some games. But like I said, when he's on the field, he's one of the best hitters in baseball, and he is my number 5 shortstop. Number 4 is Francisco Lindor. Still quite elite. He also will be 32 next year, but his performance in recent years has been a little bit better than these other guys, so I rank him a little bit higher even though he's about the same age. He's been over 30 home runs the last 3 years. He has been right around 30 stolen bases the last 3 years. Seager is arguably a better hitter, but he will likely end up with less counting stats due to injury. Lindor has historically been a little bit more durable than these other guys. So he has been able to put up some pretty good numbers, and I expect him to do so again next year. Number 3 is Elly De La Cruz. Now he's a little bit hard to rank because he's such a kind of a mercurial player. He has so much talent, but then you see the strikeout numbers. He led all of major leagues in strikeouts in 2024 with 218. He had 181 last year, but he's obviously so fast. He had the 1 year with 67 stolen bases, which he paired with 25 home runs. That was in 2024. Last year, 22 home runs, 37 stolen bases. Now, from what I'm led to believe, Terry Francona, who's now managing the Reds, is not a big believer in stolen bases for the sake of stolen bases. So he may not have a green light to run as much as he did in 2024. So I don't really expect him to approach 70 stolen bases again. But that being said, he had almost 40 last year, which is certainly nothing to sneeze at. There are reports that he may have been playing through an injury last year, which may have affected his numbers. But he did play in 162 games and 160 the year before, so he's quite durable. If you're drafting Elly De La Cruz, you're probably betting on a progression which could quite possibly come. I did give him a little bit of a boost in my model. He ended up lower than this initially, but due to the injury concerns, and he did deal with a personal matter last year, I did give him a little bit of a grace in that, so I bumped him up in my rankings. And I was tempted to put him at number 2, but I ended up at number 3, which leaves number 2 for Gunnar Henderson. Now, he had a little bit of a disappointing year last year in the sense that his home runs went from 37 to 17, but I think he was another guy who may have been playing through some injury last year, I think I read. Nothing really sticks out in his underlying numbers, so I don't really expect that his drop in power was anything to be too concerned about. One thing I noticed is that in 2024, he only grounded into 2 double plays, which is kind of crazy. Last year, it was 7. So I'm going to say maybe part of the problem is he started hitting the ball on the ground too much. So that's something to evaluate. But obviously, Gunnar Henderson is an excellent hitter. He does kind of strike out a lot, but for somebody who with the potential of 37 home runs, I think you'll take a few strikeouts. But depending on your league rules, if you get dinged for strikeouts, you may want to pivot elsewhere if Gunnar Henderson doesn't seem like the profile player who fits on your team. He will just be 25 years old next season, so he's a good bet to keep progressing. And I expect him to have a better year next year than he did last year, and that's why I have him at number 2. Number 1, again, no surprise on most of these number 1s, but it's Bobby Witt Jr., possibly one of the best players in the game. He's pretty clearly the number 1 shortstop until he proves that he's not, which so far he has not done. He led the majors in doubles last year with 47. He had 45 the year before that. Led the majors in hits the last 2 years with 211 and then 184 last year. Led the majors in batting average in 2024 with 332. He's one of the safest bets, I think, to contribute in all categories. He's definitely part of the conversation of the best fantasy player overall. He's definitely in the top 10. He does everything at an elite level. I don't want to sit here and say nothing but good things about him, but I don't really have anything bad to say. The only thing I could come up with is he gets caught stealing quite a bit. So he did lead the majors in caught stealing in 2023 with 15. Last year he was caught 9 times out of 38, and I know some leagues, some points leagues ding you for caught stealing, so be aware of that. But I don't think you're going to have Bobby Witt on your team and be complaining too much about the points he's losing you. If you want to draft Bobby Witt Jr., you're pretty much going to have to use your first pick to do it. He's one of the best players in the game, and that's why he's number 1 at one of the best positions, which is shortstop. So that's it for the shortstop rankings. Coming up, we'll have third base and outfield, followed by pitching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you down the road.